I mean, the way that you establish an equal pay claim is either you do like work or you do work of equal value. So the process that is going on, I was going to say behind the scenes, that's the wrong phrase, but that's still going on,
yes,
is the arguments about equal value. Are the jobs actually of equal value? If they're not of equal value, then obviously the claim is lost on that basis. But we say they are of equal value. If you look at the various headings, then that you would conclude that they were doing work of equal value and therefore should be paid the same hourly rate.
Thank you very much for talking to us. Sue Harris from the GMB Union. Boris Johnson has said he stands firmly with the MPs who've been sanctioned by China after they criticised Beijing's treatment of Uyghur Muslims. The Prime Minister said the MPs were performing a vital role, shining a light on what he called the gross human rights violations being perpetrated by the Chinese authorities. And he said the freedom to speak out in opposition to abuse is fundamental. China's imposed sanctions on 9 UK citizens, including the MPs, for spreading what it called lies and disinformation about the country. It comes in retaliation for measures taken by the UK government on Monday over human rights abuses against the Muslim minority group in Xinjiang province. Xinjiang is in the northwest of China. It's a region that is independent, it's autonomous, meaning it should have some powers of self-governance. But actually, in practice, it faces major restrictions by the central government. China's detained Uyghurs at camps where allegations of torture, forced labour and sexual abuse have emerged. China's acting ambassador to Britain says people's human rights in Xinjiang can't be judged by satellite images and said any criticism was unfair to those living there.
The human rights in Xinjiang cannot be defined by a few satellite images, fake reports, cobbled together by people thousands of miles away, or the performance by anti-China actors or actresses. This is unfair to 25 million people living in the region, and also unfair to all the 1.4 billion Chinese people.
Blanket denials that anything wrong is taking place in Xinjiang. The obvious thing for them to do would be to allow access to the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet. As long as they continue to resist and refuse to do so, the international pressure will only continue to grow.
Let's talk to one of the MPs sanctioned then, Tim Lawton, Conservative MP. Hello to you, Mr Lawton. How do you respond?
Hi. Well, I think we're all taken a bit by surprise, and I've had no official notification. I've not had a certificate from the Chinese embassy telling me I'm officially barred or anything. All I know is what I've seen on Twitter. But, I mean, this is just such an inept measure by the Chinese. And frankly, speaking for the 9 of the individuals who've been sanctioned, it's only going to re-fortify our efforts to call out China for the industrial scale of human rights abuses going on in Xinjiang, in Tibet and elsewhere within China.
Although, according to the Shadow Foreign Secretary, Lisa Nandy, who we spoke to about half an hour or so ago, actually the British government wants it both ways. You want to give preferential treatment when it comes to trade to China.
Well, I don't know what Lisa Nandy has said. Every other parliamentarian this morning has spoken up in favour of freedom of speech.
Well, of course she has. Sorry, just to be clear, to be fair to her, of course she absolutely has said that. There's no question of that. But what she's saying is there are mixed messages coming from your government. On the one hand, of course you're going to criticise human rights abuses. On the other, you still want to give preferential trade to China.
Well, we don't. What the British government's done in the last few weeks, which I applaud, and we want it to go further. We've had in this week the emergency-style sanctions against certain Chinese individuals and officials. We want more. We've had measures that mean that British companies cannot be trading with those sweatshops run by the Chinese with Uyghur slave labour in Xinjiang. And a number of other measures that have been taken. And those are not just the British government, it's the British acting in unison with the EU members, with our allies America and Canada this week. And we need to step up that pressure. I don't want to be trading, and I certainly don't want a comprehensive free trade agreement, nor does the government with China when it runs the sort of regime that it does with its own country and is now trying to bully people, freely elected, democratically elected members of parliament and others, in the West as well. they've got to grow up. They've got to become members of the international community, and they're acting hugely irresponsibly, in this case, really counterproductively as well.
What can countries around the world do to stop the kind of human rights abuses against the Uyghurs, which, of course, the Chinese deny are even happening?
Well, the first thing is to call them out, and that's why I'm very proud.
It doesn't
that
stop
I've been
it, though,
part of
does
that.
it?
That's one of the steps, that you must not be frightened of calling it out. And if we can act with other countries as well, if we can then bring in some of these practical measures, such as the Majinsky sanctions, restrictions on businesses trading in certain parts of China, it starts to hit home. The Chinese have acted very belligerently. This has touched a raw nerve with them. The Western world, the free world, is being emboldened to call them out. And the problem is that China has got away with this for too many years because people have not been calling them out, or we don't see practical actions that are followed through. I think what we've seen in the last few weeks from the British government and others shows that we are now getting serious about this at long last. And China needs to account for its actions. It's not just human rights.